I've just had a lot going on in my life, like the past little while. I was planning a trip to Seattle, which I just went on, which is so fun. I have another trip coming up to, I'm actually not gonna say, I'll tell you guys when we get back. I have another trip coming up that I'm so excited about. I'm leaving my state again, leaving Utah. I'm so excited. And then, school has been a shit show. School has been a shit show. Okay, sorry about my language. Yeah, I just got back from Seattle, and that was so fun. I went for a wedding. One of my friends got married, and I was like crazy, because they were gonna have 2 receptions, one in Seattle, one in Utah, and I was like, crazy idea. What if I just went to the Seattle one? And I got to go, so I visited Mount Vernon. Sorry, I had to burp. I visited Mount Vernon. I don't know where the other town was, but also Seattle. I know that I stayed in Mount Vernon, which was really cool. I loved it there. I want to live in Washington. I don't want to live where I live right now, so that's fun. I also got these really cool earrings. I got them from Walmart. Crazy. But I had to go to Walmart on the day of the wedding, because we were staying in Mount Vernon, and then we drove down to Seattle for the day, and then we left straight from Seattle to go to the wedding, so we had to change in the car. Me and all of my friends that went. I think there was like 5 of us, 6 of us. No wait, there were 7. No wait, there were 6. There were 6 of us. Yeah. Yeah, 6. So that was cool, but I got this cool sticker. I love stickers. I don't think I've ever said that on here, but I do collect stickers. Dutch proceeds to see me coming on sticker day. Okay, anyways, this video is not about a huge life update, but I just wanted to say why I was MIA, and then school has been kicking my ass. Just because I got a little bit behind, because of my personal life, and then, what was I gonna say? I got behind, and then, why is there a lawnmower going outside? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Anyways, yeah, I got behind, and it was just trying to catch back up was a little bit of a pain, but I have a test coming up. It's an at-home test, so I don't have to be in class, but it's on my ASL linguistics class. And I thought I could do a video inspired by ASMR Emco. She is the goat. Love her. I watch her study videos to get motivation to study. And so I figured, here's my plan. Hear me out. I'm gonna talk to y'all about morphology and American Sign Language, which is part of linguistics. I studied phonology. I've already taken my exam. It was good, but I'm doing morphology now, and I'm trying to think. I don't know. And so I was like, what better way to study? Also, I have not taken my ADHD medication, so I'm like, my thoughts are gone. I want to do a study with me, so I actually read my notes, because I have this terrible habit of taking notes, and like taking notes for a long time, and that's how I get it stuck in my brain, is by writing it again and again, and then I don't go back and read them. I just do practice work instead of reading my notes, so I thought that I could. I have really bad indigestion. This is a terrible time to film, but I tried filming a couple weeks ago too, but I did not like that video at all. It was a trigger word and visual triggers video, which I'm gonna refilm. I had one of you email me to do a trigger words video, so I'm gonna do that. But comment any trigger words you want me to say in the comment box. That's your guys' door, is to comment. I might make a community post too about it, so no pressure, but if are the two. So, and then an example of English morphology, first of all, so we can compare it to ASL, is free morphemes are things like cat or run. They're free morphemes. They're just words. But if you add a affix or a suffix, I'm sure you guys know those terms, it becomes bound. So adding things to the word like s, ed, or ing. So I'll use run because it's a verb. If we say runs, you know, that's bound. If we say runned, or I guess it would be ran, so that's a bad example. Or if we say running, that's a bound morpheme in English. A good one to note too is also happy. Happiness. It is the morpheme of happy plus the affix ness, meaning happiness. I don't know how to explain this in English way because I'm studying it in ASL, and I don't know about all of you, but I am Gen Z, and I was so luckily part of the group that did not get taught phonics in elementary school, because my school district decided to buy into this program that taught kids to look at the words before and after the word if you didn't know what it meant, and also look at the pictures to decide what the words mean and how they feel, which actually doesn't teach kids how to read, and it was really terrible. And my whole grade and my whole school system and peers and Gen Z all around me did not learn phonics, which has been terrible because I do teach phonics. But moral of the story, I did not get taught phonics, which has been very terrible because all they did was give us sight words and tell us to memorize it, and then asked how the words made us feel. So if you're older generation and you're like, these Gen Z kids can't do anything, it's because we actually did not get taught in elementary school, and we've had to teach ourselves in college or in high school, or some people never learn. So little study. Sidetrack. I know that's because I teach first grade and we're learning phonics together, which is really sad. So to my school district and to my school district who bought into that whole scheme, I don't like you very much, but I forgive you. Okay, anyway, moving into ASL morphology. ASL is a visual and gestural language, and it also has that structure, and using visual aspects is how we depict these different grammar things like phonology or morphology. So we do this by using reduplication, movement changes, and classifiers. So reduplication is repetition of a sign. So an example of that in ASL, when you sign nouns, they are signed twice, versus when you sign verbs, they're only once. So a good example of this would be chair. Chair. This is chair. And the word sit, which is a verb. So to sit is. So if I was signing it in a sentence, I'd be like, oh, that chair's nice. Versus, oh, I go sit. You see how I changed it? So that's how you tell, because they have the same hand shape, palm orientation, facial expression, things like that, but the movement changes, which changes the meaning of the word. So a noun versus a verb. And then movement changes, I told you about that. And classifiers. Classifiers are not considered a certain sign in American Sign Language, rather a hand shape used in sentences and stories. this is a letter D. But this is a classifier. And if I do this, it's a person. This represents an individual human being or a person, right? Classifiers also use certain hand shapes to mimic the appearance of something. So I'm trying to think. Okay, a good classifier would be open 5 or the 5 hand shape. And we do this. This means like a group. So if I'm talking about a group of people over there, I'd be like, oh, like they're grouped, you know? I'm sure that's a really bad example, but I'm trying. I'm a student, I'm trying. So, and then reduplication is the, and movement changes are the, like the nouns versus the verbs, which I just told you. Okay. Turning my page. Alright. Now I'm gonna talk to you about inflectional versus derivational morphology. So, derivational creates new words and changes the word class. So this kind, the derivational morphology, creates new words. So an example in English would be teach. The word teach versus teacher. They're similar, but the affix of ER creates a new word with a new meaning. Does that make sense? And in ASL, noun derivation, a good example of this would be sit versus chair, right? So it's the same base, kind of like in English how you have teach, teacher. It's the same base word, but you add and take away things to change the meaning of that word. So in English you add the ER, and in ASL, if we were using chair and sit as an example, it would be, chair versus sit. You're adding or taking away movement. So, and this can significantly change meaning. So a lot of times new signers will sign things multiple times or change the movement of a sign, and it completely changes the meaning. It completely changes the sign. So you have to be very careful about that in ASL. You can't just, go for it and sign it any way you want, because movement has grammatical meaning. Okay, now going into inflectional morphology. This modifies words to fit grammatical context. So, alright, an English example would be, it's modifying the word. If we have the word walk versus walks versus walked, you're modifying grammatical aspects for context. So like, oh, she walked to the park. You wouldn't say she walked to the park. You'd say she walked, which is ED. Even though it sounds like T, my kids would be so confused if I told them this right now, because they would spell walked as WALKT, walked, but ED says it. So, in this aspect, so walked to the park. In ASL, if we wanted to add that, we would, it would either be a verb movement. So, how could I do this? So like walking versus like taking a step, like, but I just keep thinking, I'm a little confused because my teacher posted these slides and I just took notes off the slides. But I know in class that we talked about walk. And then if we wanted to say walked, we would do walk and then finish to signify that it was past tense. So when you say something is past tense in ASL, as in an action, you would put finish. So, I study finish. That means I studied. Because it's like I finished studying, or, if we were to say in English, it would be studied. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I want to compare derivation versus inflection. So derivation means a new word / a meaning shift. So for example, teach or teacher. And inflection is a grammatical adjustment only. So in English, she gave us the example of govern versus government. Remind you, it's kind of the same base word in context, but adding M-E-N-T to the word govern completely changes the word, which is derivation. I can't say this word, guys. You guys are gonna think I'm stupid. Okay, and then the term govern versus governs is inflection, because you only change the grammatical adjustment instead of changing the complete word meaning. And in ASL, we could do the example of noun derivation versus aspectual inflection. So that would kind of be like chair and sit versus walked, or like taking a step. I don't know. That's probably a really bad example. I should email my professor. Okay. Anyways, moving on, I'm going to be discussing my Unit 11 material, which is compounds in ASL. So I know a lot of you know about compound words in English, like greenhouse, rainbow, you know, stuff like that, where it becomes, or boyfriend and girlfriend, where it becomes one word from two separate words. It's the same thing in American Sign Language. And when you compound words, even if it is two separate signs, it becomes one sign. So for example, mom or mother, this is father or dad. But if I do this, that is one sign. It is not two separate signs saying mom and dad. This is parents versus mom or dad. So there's different phonological aspects to that, where it does signify a different sign. So like the movement hold model, or hold to deletion, stuff like that, which I won't get into because that'll take a while for me to explain. But the definition of a compound that I've written down is a single lexical item formed by combining two free morphemes. So, like we know from earlier, a morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning, and a free morpheme is like a noun or an adjective. So, the combining of two free morphemes. So in English, this would be green and this would be house. So an adjective and a noun combined together to create a new word with a new meaning, greenhouse. In American Sign Language, like I told you, mother and father put together as parents. So that creates a new meaning. Alright. How did this happen? How and why did this happen? So, I've written down signs evolve over time, which is assimilation. Two signs become one. Just like I said. So the two separate signs of mother and father are put together to become one new sign or one new word. Changeability. It's also a reason why this happened. So, a good example of this is assimilation, or anticipatory, anticipatory assimilation. So the first part of a sign has anticipated the second part's hand shape and copied it. I'll show you an example. So, woman, and marry. This is a sign for like married, like you're getting married, or marry. So marry, and then woman. When you sign the word wife, you do this. Do you see how the second part of the sign? So this flows better, and it's an example of anticipatory assimilation. So, another one is remember. The sign for remember, because it's a sign for no, continue. So, if we combine those, it becomes a sign remember. So this has evolved over time, right? Because a long time ago they would sign no, continue, which to remember something means that you will continue to know it. So remember. I'm sure you can see why that plays together. The opposite of anticipatory assimilation is called preservative assimilation, where the first part of the sign changes the second part. And this also comes with gender deletion. So a while ago, a good example of this would be girl serve, and that was the sign for waiter, or like a waiter at a restaurant. But in American Sign Language now, what you sign it is waiter. It has no gender affiliation, because men or women, or however you identify, can be a waiter instead of just a woman server. Does that make sense? Cool, I'm gonna move on. I have so many notes. Alright. Morphological words in American Sign Language compounds. So the contact hold rule is, or I guess these are rules of morphological ASL compounds. So contact hold rule is the hold at the point of contact is shortened or deleted. So that means like you don't take pauses in between the signs that you do. You just it flows together. The single sequence rule is reduplicated and movements are reduced to a single movement. So that would be an example of a verb. Instead of doing, like one movement, it's a single movement. It has meaning. Weak hand anticipation. So the weak hand may appear early in the anticipation of the second sign. So a lot of times when you're signing a sentence, you'll have signs that are only signed with your dominant hand, and your weak hand has no part in it. So a good example of this would be sister. You start bringing this hand up, your weak hand comes, and then so you may bring this hand before you do sister or brother or sibling, or in the middle of your face represents non-gendered sibling. So men is, when you sign about men, it's the upper half of the face. When you sign about women, it's the lower half. So girl, boy, mom, dad, man, woman, or man and woman, wife, husband, daughter, son, things like that. I'm sure you can see, but if you were to say like, just like, oh, my sibling, like without saying a gender, it would be from the middle of the face. So that's kind of like a pronouns in American Sign Language. Alright, and then phonological process and compounds versus the morphological process is hold deletion, movement assimilation, location assimilation, and weak hand deletion. I'm not going to go into that, but properties of ASL compounds. So we have lexicalized, which is stored as a single sign in a lexicon. Lexicalization is where you finger spell the word and it becomes a sign. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But it has different parameter changes. So reduced property is a shorter form than two separate signs. So kind of like parents. It's shorter than signing mom and dad. You just go parents. And then meaning shift. Meaning is more specific than just the sum of parts. So a good example would be teacher. Teach. And then agent marker. Agent marker is something you use in American Sign Language to show a role, a duty, or a job. So teacher. Florist. there is transparent compounds and lexolized/opaque compounds. Transparent compounds have a clear meaning. It's clear to understand the compound. An example of this would be teacher. Teach. So this is a sign for teach. And then, so if we do this, it becomes teacher. That is a clear and transparent compound. The second type is lexolized/opaque compounds, which are less obvious. They're less obvious. They're not as clear to understand what the person is signing. An example is this. That is the sign for believe. This is a compound of two other signs, think and married. That is the sign for believe, but you shorten it and compound it to be a little bit different. So instead of going think and married, your thoughts are married, you believe it. I don't know, that's how I remember. Alright. An example of a couple more compounds. Bookstore. This is a sign for book in ASL. So book. Book. And then store. Store. Bookstore. Bookstore. You take two separate signs, put them together. Certain pauses between the signs. So instead of saying like, oh, book and store, you go bookstore. It's a faster movement. You do not pause between the two signs. They become one. I hope that makes sense. Another one is breakfast. So this is a sign for eat. 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 And this is morning. So how do I show this? My hand is like this, and you bring it up. Morning. Morning. Breakfast is morning. Eat. Morning. Eat. Do you see how you don't go morning? Eat. It's just this hand copies eat in the sign instead of having your flat hand. Yeah. Alright. Moving on to finger spelling. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So, morphology. I wrote this down again. The study of word formation and structure, which finger spelling has to play into it. Finger spelling is where you copy. So there's traditional finger spelling and non-finger spelling. Traditional finger spelling is where we borrow concepts from the English alphabet, or just the alphabet in general, and we assign them letter by letter. So if I were to sign my name, this is traditional finger spelling. I signed Brooke because my name is Brooke. But if I were to do non-finger spelling, it would be So the difference between the two, traditional finger spelling is slow and steady. I have a slow and steady hand. Each letter is represented clearly. There's no bouncing and no moving of the hand. So that's traditional. Non-finger spelling is faster. Phonological processes may occur. Many letters are omitted. And the first and last letter of the word plus the high and low letters stand out. So high and low letters are like things that look clearly different. So D, because like this is A and S. So assist. You can't really, if I do it fast, you can't see how the I stand out. The A and the T stood out because it was the first and last letter that I finger spelled, but I feel like you can hear the lawnmower in the background, and I hate it, and I'm so sorry. But it's hard to tell between S because A and S are not high letters, and low letters would be like P or Q, things like that. So kind of think about when you write in English, which letters go above. Do you know like the that kindergartners and like lower grade elementary school students use. So like, that's a wrong way. So like having like the lines for sentences, and it's like a dotted line in the middle. Anything that goes above the dotted line is a high letter, and anything that goes below is a low letter. So like P, Q, things like that, versus like D, B, K, you know. I hope that makes sense. And then there's lexicalized fingerspelling, which is my favorite thing about American Sign Language, guys. Fingerspelled words become a single ASL sign. An example of this would be the sign for burn. So like if you burned yourself, or if something is burning, instead of being like, oh, B-U-R-N, it's burning, you go burn. I'll show that again. So B-U-R-N, burn. Movement is changed, and your palm orientation changes as well. Another one that I love is style. So instead of like, oh, her style is amazing, you'd be like, style, style, style. So instead of being like, oh, style, it's fast. And more fluent signers can clearly understand that when they are watching somebody sign. Alright. Lexicalized words are not spelled letter by letter. They are signed in a chunk. And characteristics of lexicalized words include movement change, reduced letters, and altered hand shape or palm orientation. So, burn or back. Back. When I said back, I don't go back. It's back. B-A-K. Back. Burn is a really easy one, because burn, you kind of just, like the U, this is U, like the letter U and R, they kind of flow together, so burn, because, yeah, so burn, if that makes sense. And then there's a couple different functions of fingerspelling overall. That includes borrowing English words. So these are words that do not, or they do have signs, but we specifically borrow and fingerspell kind of traditionally. So like taxi, or DNA, MRI, things like that. There's 4 functions. So the second one is creating technical terms. So if you have a certain term, or like instruction, or like a certain word that doesn't have a sign in American Sign Language, you would fingerspell it for clarity. Emphasis and clarity is a third one. So this would be like describing specific things. So if I'd be like, oh, my makeup is awesome, be like, oh, like, what brand, like, or, you know, I'd be like, oh, it's NYX, or ELF, or, you know, or if you're like, oh, like your shirt, like it's a car, like say you got it from Carhartt, you'd say Carhartt, you'd fingerspell that, because it's a specific name or brand. People's names you also sign. Names of buildings you will sign if they don't have a name sign. And name signs are signs given by the deaf community, so you don't have to fingerspell. So instead of like, it's a big thing in the deaf community, like if you get given a name sign, it means like you are important to the deaf community. Like it's a big thing. Nobody can give you a sign, except a name sign, except for a deaf person. So like, for example, my English, or one of my ASL professors, this is her name sign, instead of having to fingerspell her name letter by letter, if that makes sense. Alright, the 4th function is morphological integration, which would be things like lexicalization, you know, because that's part of morphology. Alright, some more examples of fingerspelling would be, this is lexicalization, but bus. There is a sign for bus, but just this. But a lot of times you'll see people just fingerspell it because it's easier. Fingerspelling also adds emphasis. So, for example, let's say I'm having a conversation and someone says something that I agree with, instead of just being like, yes, I agree with that. I'd be like, yes, yes, because YES, yes. I've seen deaf people do that. We have acronyms, so certain names of schools, or certain like companies have acronyms. So like NASA is an acronym. So you just NASA. I have my school name, for example, but I'm not gonna say that. And then you also use fingerspelling as like technology and acronyms, so like app or PC, AI, USB, net, you know. And then everyday words that are lexicalized also have the function of fingerspelling. So places, names, and institutions. So you'll see this a lot with states in America. So like New York is NY, or DC for Washington DC, or LA for Los Angeles. If you're saying high school, it's HS. Like that's literally the sign for high school is HS. Vermont is VA. And then some other everyday words like ASAP, or gas, toy, off. And instead of saying like OFF, you go off. Okay, ignore that I did that. The flu, like saying I have the flu, you just flu, you know. So that concludes my notes from American Sign Language class, my linguistics. My test opens at 5 p.m. on the day that I'm filming this. I think I'm just gonna post this right now, honestly. So my test opens at 5 p.m. and it's due by Sunday at 12 p.m. So honestly, and shout out to my professor because she made it open book, open note. So if I need to, I can go back to her lectures and watch them and literally get the answer. But I figured this would be a good way. Okay, anyways, I did want to pop in really quick. I have a midterm coming up next week for my history of deaf people class after the year 1817. That literally is my class. Or that's like not my class name, but that's what it's about. I'm studying history of American Sign Language in the deaf community after the year 1817, because the year 1817 is when the first school/institution for the deaf was established in America. But I'm going to make a study video about that because I need to study. That one is proctored online. I take it home, but they proctor it online, and it's not open book, open nose. So I'm actually gonna upload this video. I'm gonna go right back to my bed, and my ass is gonna sit down, and we're going to study for my English, or be for real, my history class. Anyways, I'm sorry for being MIA, but I'm just a teenage. I guess I am a teenager because I'm 19, but I'm just a college student trying to survive, trying to have a life, and, you know, sometimes you just gotta go to Seattle. So